If your work seems to disappear once it reaches the room, this video is for you. You contribute ideas, solve problems, and move projects forward, yet when outcomes are discussed, your name is missing or barely mentioned. At first, this feels subtle and easy to rationalize. You tell yourself it is probably timing, coincidence, or normal office dynamics. You assume recognition will come later, once results are clearer and more visible. But over time, the same pattern repeats, and it becomes harder to ignore. Credit stealing at work is rarely obvious. It does not look like someone openly claiming your work or announcing ownership in front of others. Most of the time, it happens quietly through small shifts in language, framing, and presence. That quietness is exactly why it works. There is no clear moment to object to and no dramatic line that has been crossed. Everything feels just reasonable enough to avoid confrontation, while slowly eroding ownership. You share an idea in a meeting, and the conversation moves on. It is acknowledged briefly, then buried under other points, side discussions, or new priorities. In the moment, nothing feels wrong or confrontational. Later, the same idea returns. It is slightly reframed, presented with more confidence, and delivered by someone else, often someone with more authority or visibility in the room. This time, the response is different. People nod. The discussion builds. The idea gains momentum. No one mentions where it originated, and no one corrects the record. The idea is now mentally associated with someone else. Nothing illegal happened, nothing openly unfair, but something important shifted in how ownership is perceived and remembered. Credit stealing thrives in environments where ownership is unclear. When ideas exist only in conversation, attribution becomes flexible, and flexibility always favors those closer to power, status, or decision makers. In these environments, outcomes matter more than origins. Whoever presents the result often becomes associated with the success, regardless of who did the underlying work. Visibility slowly replaces contribution. Over time, a recognizable pattern forms. You become known as reliable, helpful, and technically capable. You are the person others depend on to make things work behind the scenes. But you are not seen as the driver of results. Your contribution becomes supportive rather than central, even when your work is essential to success. You are useful, but not visible. This creates a specific psychological effect. You start working harder, preparing more thoroughly, and explaining yourself in greater detail, assuming recognition will eventually follow effort. You may volunteer more, stay later, and take on extra responsibility. You believe that if you do enough, visibility will come naturally. But effort alone does not protect credit in these systems. Structure does. In many workplaces, credit is not taken aggressively. It is absorbed slowly through summaries, presentations, and retellings that detach work from its source over time. Someone summarizes your contribution as part of a broader team effort. Someone presents outcomes without naming contributors. Someone speaks on your behalf in rooms you are not invited into. Each instance seems harmless on its own. No single moment feels serious enough to challenge. But together, these moments quietly rewrite the story of who did what. This is why credit stealing is so difficult to confront. There is no single incident to point to, no clean accusation that can be made without sounding defensive or insecure. Everything looks reasonable when viewed in isolation. But consistency over time tells a different story, one that becomes clearer only when you step back and look at the pattern. Another reason this behavior persists is social risk. Calling out credit theft often carries more risk than staying silent, especially when the person benefiting has more influence. Many employees instinctively protect harmony rather than accuracy. Over time, accuracy becomes negotiable, while relationships and perceptions take priority. This is where systems quietly fail competent people, not because they are wrong, but because they refuse to play visibility games. Many people respond to this situation in predictable ways. Some become quieter and stop sharing ideas to avoid frustration or disappointment. Others become territorial and guarded, trying to protect every detail and control access to information. Both reactions feel logical, and both fail. Silence increases invisibility. Defensiveness damages how others perceive you. Both responses reinforce the same system that allowed credit to drift away in the first place. The strategy has to be more precise and more controlled. Credit protection is not about confrontation, and it is not about ego or self-promotion. It is about positioning. Instead of sharing ideas casually, you anchor them. You summarize discussions in writing and follow up with clear language that connects actions, decisions, and outcomes to contributors. You clarify ownership without accusation. You document progress in ways that make contribution visible without emotional framing. You let records, not arguments, establish authorship. This approach feels uncomfortable at first. Many people worry it will make them seem self-centered or political. In reality, it creates clarity where ambiguity once existed. For example, instead of saying, "We discussed this," you say, "Based on the approach I outlined earlier." Instead of, "The team decided," you say, "As described in my proposal." This kind of language does not create conflict. It creates traceability, and traceability protects credit over time. Healthy organizations recognize contribution because clarity supports accountability. Unhealthy ones rely on ambiguity, and ambiguity is where credit quietly changes hands. Here is the key takeaway. If your work consistently moves outcomes forward but your name does not move with it, that is information. Credit does not disappear randomly. It follows visibility, power, and structure. Once you understand this, you stop chasing recognition. You stop over-explaining, and you start designing environments where credit cannot quietly be taken from you.